Imagine you're standing in a waiting room. Suddenly, everyone around you stands up. There's no alarm, no fire, but you find yourself standing too, without thinking, without asking why. But the real answer is far stranger than that. The truth is, your brain isn't asking why in that moment. It's asking a different question entirely, a very old question, a question that predates language itself. The question is, what do other people see that I don't? And this isn't philosophical theory. It's a mechanism the science measured precisely, first revealed by a man named Solomon Asch in 1951. Asch ran an experiment simple in form and terrifying in result. He would place a single real participant among a group of actors who had already agreed on their answers beforehand. He'd show them one line on a card, then 3 other lines, and he'd ask, which of these 3 lines matches the length of the first one? The answer was obvious. A normal eye could see it without effort, but the actors would give the wrong answer out loud, one after another. And the result? Around 75% of the real participants agreed with the wrong answer, at least once. Not because they couldn't see correctly, because their brain preferred to agree with the group over agreeing with its own eyes. A question worth pausing on here. Why would a healthy human brain, one that sees clearly, choose to lie to itself? To understand the answer, you have to go back far, not to 1951. You have to go back 100,000 years, to an era when separation from the group wasn't just social embarrassment, it was a death sentence. Your ancient ancestor, living in small groups of 20 to 50 people, didn't have the luxury of thinking alone. If the whole group suddenly ran and one person stopped to ask why, they'd likely become the prey. The lion doesn't wait for someone to analyze the situation. The one who asks dies. The one who moves with the herd survives. That means the brain you carry now, the one that decides to stand in a waiting room for no reason, is the same brain that made your ancestor cross the river behind the herd without waiting to see where the crocodile was. That quick response was a survival tool, not a character flaw, but there's a deeper detail. Muzafer Sherif, a Turkish-American psychologist, ran another experiment in 1935, years before Asch. He used a visual phenomenon called the autokinetic effect. A fixed point of light in a completely dark room appears to move because of how the human eye focuses without a reference point. Sherif first placed people alone and asked how far the point had moved. Each person gave a completely different number. Then he put them together in the same room. And after just a few sessions, the whole group began agreeing on a single number, a number that wasn't even real since the point never actually moved. The difference between Asch's experiment and Sherif's experiment matters a lot. In Asch's experiment, people knew the answer was wrong and said it anyway to stay in agreement with the group. This is called public compliance. But in Sherif's experiment, people actually became convinced the number was correct. Their perception itself changed. This is called private acceptance, which means the herd doesn't just change what you say, it can change what you actually see and feel. And here comes the twist. Many people hear this and think the solution is to always think for yourself and resist the group every time. But the studies say the exact opposite. The herd isn't a flaw in evolution. The herd was, and still is, one of the most important survival tools humans have. Think about it this way. If every person in every situation had to analyze every piece of information from scratch without benefiting from the experience of those around them, humans would die of sheer mental exhaustion. Copying the group isn't always laziness. Often, it's the smartest strategy available. If everyone in the restaurant suddenly starts running, the statistically correct move is to run with them first and ask questions later. So the question isn't, is the herd right or wrong? The real question is, when can you tell whether you're following the herd or actually thinking for yourself? And here, the modern reflection gets harder. Think about the last time you bought something just because it was the best seller. Think about the last time you changed your opinion in an argument just because the majority around you agreed on a different view. Think about the times you stayed silent about a question in your mind simply because no one else asked it. And it's no coincidence this happens more when you're a stranger somewhere, or new at work, or need to belong. Studies confirm that compliance rates increase when a person feels socially insecure, or when the group around them appears completely unified and in agreement. focused on a principle he called social proof. Cialdini found that people use others' behavior as a source of information about what's right and wrong, especially in ambiguous situations. Meaning, the more unclear a situation is, the stronger the herd effect becomes. This explains why ads say bestseller or 9 out of 10 prefer it, not because the product is actually better, but because your brain trusts the number more than it trusts its own judgment. So the question you should really ask yourself isn't, am I acting like the herd? Because the answer is definitely yes at some point. The more precise question is, does this situation actually need a herd, or am I just afraid of being the only one standing differently? Your ancient ancestor didn't have time to ask that question. They had to move fast or die. But you now have the luxury of a second or two. The luxury to pause, ask, and check. Is this line really the same length as that one, or am I just agreeing because no one around me is saying otherwise? The difference isn't about being against the group every time. The difference is knowing when you're choosing and when your brain is choosing for you. So next time you find yourself standing in a waiting room for no reason and no one told you why, pause for just 1 second. Not to sit back down, just to ask yourself this simple question: why am I really standing?